Hey there, Nate here with the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. And I got a media report here. So I like to do these little media reports just to track some basic things here. So today is November 6th, 2016. And we did two services today, an 8 o'clock service and a 10:45 service. And the first thing I like to mention is the max hold levels, or the peak hold levels. So we've got a dB-SPL meter that is fixed in the back of the room, and I like to hit that little like peak reset button. So it just kind of gives me like a data point of like kind of where we are from week to week, and we always dial it in the same A-weighted slow at the same location. And we were on the lower side today, but we had a rock band, and one of the rock groups that is worship groups that is typically known for being loud. So I was very pleased with the level. So we hit 87.6 in the 8 a.m. service. That's dB-SPL A-weighted slow. And then we hit 88 dB-SPL A-weighted slow in the second service. So I'll talk a little bit more later in this video about why levels were a little lower, why I think they were. The next point was the drum monitor patch cable. So we've got a return send that is a line level send. Rather than going to an amplifier, it goes to a little hotspot powered speaker up on a little mic stand, and we just plant that right behind the drum enclosure so the drummer gets his own personal mix. And you need a special type of patch cable to patch it from, because we're using kind of an input as a return. So you need this kind of like specialized patch cable. So instead of a typical XLR patch cable where it's XLR female on one end and XLR male on the other, you need an XLR patch cable that has male pins on both ends. So to do that, there's like a little barrel connector. They call it a gender changer, and you plug that into the end, and it basically gives you the equivalent of a XLR patch cable with male pins on both ends, and you plug that into input 1 on the front of the drum hotspot, so that you could possibly plug it in on the back, but I recommend plugging it in on the front so you can control the level there coming in. It gives you another gain stage. So that's an important thing to note, because we've had that plugged in. People have been confused about how to plug it in, and they'll plug it in one way and there'll be like all this buzzing and noise because the grounds aren't matched up properly, or there's not, maybe the cable's broken. I'm not exactly sure why there was noise, but it was hooked up incorrectly in the past and not usable. And so now it was usable because we hooked it up the right way. Another note, the 9-volt rechargeable batteries from Ansmann that we bought a while back now, maybe six months ago now, they're working out great. So we use those with the Shure ULX body packs, and sometimes with the 9-volt rechargeables, they're not all standard sizes. Some can be like a little bit too big or a little bit too small to fit inside of one of those body packs. And we found that the Ansmann 9 volts work really well with the Shure ULX body packs. So they're working out great. I think we'll use them for a while. We just put them in that charging base, and then next week we got some fresh batteries. So that's a good thing. Let's see. Oh, there was an ad lib. So I got to talk about a musical transition between The Stand and Good Good Father that I thought was well done. And I got to talk about ad lib communion prayer. So this is kind of like a curveball that was thrown my way. And there was a prayer that wasn't picked up on the recording, and also couldn't be heard in the fellowship hall because the person doing it just didn't have a microphone. So I'll talk about those two things as I drive. So let's drive here. I'll get headed home because I'm hungry. I'm ready for some lunch. You know what I mean? Observing daylight savings time. So sunset is going to be around 4:30 today. It's just going to be weird. But that's the way it goes. On a bright note, I got a text message from my sister. We might do a little bonfire or something with the kids, because normally we couldn't do a bonfire over the summer because kids' bedtime is like 7:30 on a typical day. We like to keep them on their routines, those kids on their schedules. But now that the sunset is happening at 4:30, we can have a little roast some hot dogs and marshmallows and have a little campfire with the kiddos at Grammy and Grampy's house. So maybe we'll go do that tonight. That would be pretty fun. Anyway, I wanted to talk about musical transition. So between the song "The Stand" and "Good Good Father," there was EJ did like a little interlude, like musical transition, and I really liked kind of what he did with the melody in the second service. So he did two different transitions. In the first service, he did one that was more like ethereal, and he just used this what's the name of this pedal? It's a guitar pedal, but it almost makes your guitar sound like a synthesizer. It adds all these like kind of like it's almost like a synth pad type of a thing, where it just kind of like you play a note and then all these harmonics get added, and it almost makes your guitar sound like a keyboard when you let it kind of ring out. So he did that during the first service, which was okay. A well-executed transition is a beautiful thing between songs. And then during the second service, he went kind of more right into the melody. Like he played, I think like either the dominant or the root, or the tonic, I guess as they say, from the musical theory world, if I'm remembering my terms properly. And just kind of let those kind of ring out. And then he went right into like a little melody lick, and he just repeated that a few times while this like synth thing was happening in the background. And it was really nice. It was just acoustic guitar, electric bass, and drums, and one vocalist. So for that reason, the mix was a lot easier to manage because there wasn't a whole bunch of vocals, and it was kind of a lighter weight ensemble. So really, really nice to mix for. Really simple, clean. I thought I could get a decent amount of clarity without having to be really too loud. But the well executed transition, I just thought that was noteworthy. How EJ handled that, because right when they finished The Stand, he went right into this like kind of like little guitar lick, but didn't get right into it right away. Didn't get into the melody portion of it right away, but just kind of I don't know, did like a little build up to it, and it was just nice. It was a nice transition. So I wanted to give EJ props on that. I liked what Pete and EJ were doing there, and then Eric on bass was also kind of just letting a note kind of ring out, which also added to the whole effect, more of like a droning kind of a thing in the background. But good transition. The next thing I want to talk about is why levels were lower. Okay, so levels were, so this is the group that normally tends to be loud, and I just did a video with Dave Dolphin about like ways you can avoid it's too loud complaints. And one of the things I did today was I got aggressive on the compression. I normally just do a touch of compression, maybe on like bass and one other. I don't like to use a whole lot of compression. I don't know, it's just my style. It's just a habit that I've kind of fallen into. And you know what, today I'm like, let me try something a little different. I'll hit the compressors a little bit too hard rather than just dial it in on one or two sources. I'll put compression across the board, just a 1-to-3 ratio. And the release time was a little bit slower on the bass. I had a really fast attack time, slow release on bass, but pretty quick release on the other sources. And I just adjusted the threshold until I could see the gain reduction kind of happening a little bit every once in a while. Just not slamming the compressor, but I made sure there was a teeny little bit of compression happening on almost every channel. And it was interesting that combined with low cut filters or high pass filters seemed to have a pretty big impact on reining in the levels of this little rock ensemble there. And like I said, I mean, we usually, our typical dynamic range, I think when I mix, is usually between 84 and 94. And I just kind of leave that much room in there. And if we hit 95 as like a peak, I'll think, that's a little bit on the loud side for our congregation. But today that peak was like 88, but I had no problem hearing any of the sources. So that could be because, I know it could be a little quieter because it was a lightweight ensemble. There was less sources. Usually there's like 2 or 3 other vocals up there. So that could be part of it. But also I think the compression combined with a lightweight group, I think it really brought clarity to the mix, while keeping the levels down, which was a good thing. So I don't know, just kind of trying some new things, using compression a little bit more aggressively than I usually do, and just kind of seeing what it does. And you know, I'm interested to get feedback kind of from other people that were down there, and just talk with Josh, and talk with my wife, and just kind of say, hey, what did you hear? Did it sound different? And not like, I'm not going to mention what I did, but I'll just kind of get their feedback first and see what their perception of some of this stuff was too. So yeah, overall pretty good. So I talked about why levels were a little bit lower than normal today. Now the perception of it could have been completely different from people. Even though levels were lower on the meter, people could perceive things based on style, and they think it's louder even when it's not. So that's a possibility. What was the last thing I was going to mention? Levels, the transition, the audible at the end. So very end of service, we're doing communion. We did communion in the first service and in the second, but in the first service the pastor did the prayer for the bread and the wine, and in the second service he did I would say, you know, stealing a term from the football world, he pulled an audible or an option, and he kind of optioned off the prayer to 2 different deacons, and that's fine. The problem was it was a curveball because I was not prepared to mic those people up. So a handheld mic would not work because they were already holding the plate of bread or the plate of wine, or the tray of wine, I should say. It's the little communion cups. Handheld wireless wouldn't have worked because they can't hold that and hold the element at the same time. And then what you call it? The pulpit. I guess that would be the best solution. They could have walked up to the pulpit mic, but they weren't. They were already kind of standing in a formation down on the floor, so that really wasn't convenient. So I really don't have a good solution for that, other than, you know, try to mic up the people that are going to be praying, or have people pray that are, you know, already mic'd up. So that was the only thing where I wasn't quite sure exactly how to handle it. But I'm in the dark here. You can't really see me, can you? So anyway, those are my thoughts on this media report. I am at home now, so I'm going to go in and get some food, and maybe do a little campfire at Grampy's house. That'd be pretty fun on this daylight savings Sunday. All right, that's my media report for today. See you in the next video.